Get myself settled up here with a drink of water ready. I see Your Honour sitting there. He's always a hard act to follow as being in conversations and speeches, so David, I'll do my best. Okay, before I begin, can we please give a round of applause to our school students for their fantastic official opening? And also, can we give Pete Lewis, our MC, a round of applause for his tremendous job that he does for us. Okay, let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, members, colleagues and partners of industry, it's good to see so many of you here today, particularly given what has taken to get here. This has been a proper territory wet. It has set the country up well, but has also come at a cost. Across the membership, homes, infrastructure and access has been impacted for some families. It's been a very difficult period. We recognise and we understand the scale of it, and we are continuing to ensure it is reflected in recovery efforts. What stands out, as always, is the resilience of this industry. Recovery will take time, but the season ahead presents opportunity, and this industry knows how to make the most of that. Through this address, you will hear the message about our association and our people. A message grounded in strength, resilience and opportunity. For once again, we gather not out of habit, but out of purpose. This week is a reminder of who we are, what we stand for, and importantly, what we will not allow to be lost. Let us use this opportunity to recommit to our industry, the communities that rely on us, the economy that benefits, and the country that loves beef. This association does not exist by accident. It endures because each generation has made a deliberate choice to carry it forward, to invest in it, to defend it, and to strengthen for those who will follow. Over my many years associated with this organisation, I have watched responsibility pass from one set of hands to the next, sometimes quietly, sometimes in moments of real challenge, but always with a shared understanding what we hold here is larger than any one individual or any one season. Every generation reaches a defining point where it must decide. Do we simply maintain what we inherited, or do we build upon it? Do we preserve the structure, or do we reinforce the foundations for those who come after us? What I have observed, and increasingly so in the recent years, is a shift in mindset, a deeper engagement from our members, a sharper expectation of what the association should deliver, a stronger willingness to participate, to lead and to shape outcomes rather than simply respond to them. That tells me something important about where we are headed. Ladies and gentlemen, it tells me that this is not an organisation standing still. It's an organisation in motion, confident in its purpose and clear in its direction. And that gives us reason to celebrate, not just for the proud history of this association, but the capability, leadership and resilience of our people. Our success is not measured only in policy wins or balance sheets. Important though they are, it is measured in the strength of the producers who stand behind this association. In the resolve we share to continue what we have started, and importantly, in the next generation of leaders stepping forward to take us into the future. Better on beef must mean better outcomes for producers, better outcomes for regional communities, and better outcomes for the Northern Territory. And better outcomes do not come from noise, they come from strength, from clarity, and from unity. Ladies and gentlemen, let us be clear about what this association stands for. Each day, the Northern Territory cattle industry operates within a policy and regulatory framework that directly shapes how business function, how cattle move, and whether investment proceeds. At the same time, we operate within a broader set of social expectations that influence perception, policy and market access. Whether we welcome those constraints or not, they are part of the environment on which modern agriculture must lead and compete. We are engaged constantly and deliberately in that environment. Our work is directed at correcting the fundamentals of doing business in the Territory. It's advocating for infrastructure that is fit for purpose, including roads that underpin the supply chain but fail to meet the growing demand and the expectations of our producers. It's defending pastoral land use and securing fair consideration and planning and decision making where competing land uses are in play. It's about ensuring policymakers understand the Northern Territory's cattle industry's real contribution, sustaining regional jobs and communities, feeding tens of millions globally through live export and box beef, and strengthening Australia's trade relationships, geopolitical standing, and as a reliable food security partner. It's strengthening biosecurity settings with vigilance and preparedness, protect not just individual enterprises, but the integrity of our entire system. It's cutting through red tape, where complexity, duplication, and delay impose real cost on productive businesses. This is work that commenced with the birth of the Association in 1984 and will continue into the future. These are the conditions under which producers make decisions about freight, compliance, labour, investment and risk. They shape competence, timelines and commercial reality across the Territory, and no single producer can address these issues alone. That brings me to why unity matters. Unity can be tested at times, but it's during times of challenge that we grow stronger. Take, for instance, class action. As we gather this week to recognise the strength and contribution of our industry, we do so with a significant development in a matter that has lingered since 2011, more than 15 years. The class action appeal case has now been heard before the full court of the Federal Court of Australia. 15 years. 15 years is not a policy cycle, it's not a budget period, it's a generation in business terms. Over that time, producers across Northern Australia have carried the consequences of a decision that fundamentally disrupted markets and livelihoods. They have absorbed the uncertainty, they've continued to invest, continued to employ, continued to contribute without closure. I stand with our former presidents in saying this plainly. This must now be resolved. Our people deserve certainty, they deserve accountability, and they deserve closure. And I say this here at a conference defined by purpose, strength and resilience, and opportunity, because the North does not ask for special treatment. It's time to bring this chapter to a close. Unity is not symbolic, it is strategic. It is the practical advantage that comes from speaking with clarity and purpose. It determines whether we're engaged early or informed late, whether we shape decisions or absorb them. The influence this association holds has earned through discipline and credibility. Division dilutes authority, fragmentation weakens leverage, and weakness in policy is always exploited. We do not have to agree on everything, but we must remain aligned on purpose. Because our collective strength is the foundation of our influence, and without it, we have very little. For this proud association, unity is not an aspiration, it's our history and our foundation. Before we talk about where we are going, we must remind ourselves of where we came from. The Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association did not appear by luck or convenience. It was built by cattlemen and women who understood something fundamental and timeless. Those early pastoralists who were tough, practical and resilient looked across this vast territory and made a decision of profound foresight. They consolidated because they understood that unity creates strength and division creates vulnerability. That message is true today as it was then. And it is this reason the NTCA matters. Because the challenges ahead are not smaller than the challenge behind. When we speak about unity, we are really speaking about character, the character of the people who built this association. The early pastoralists of the North did not seek recognition. They were resilient, they had confidence in the future and a desire to leave this industry stronger than they found it. And it is in this spirit of service, foresight and responsibility beyond oneself that we are proud to establish the inaugural award this year. The Ian McBean AM Memorial Award. It's good to see you here, Kay, and the McBean family. This award recognises and celebrates our outstanding young person within the Northern Territory cattle pastoral industry. For many in this room, Ian McBean needs no introduction. He was a founding member of this association, awarded life membership in 2008, and in 2012 he was appointed a member of the Order of Australia in recognition of his significant contribution to the northern cattle industry. But Ian's legacy is not defined by titles. It is defined by resilience, by leadership, by service, and his never-ending commitment to the industry and our people. His memorial award does more than honour the past. It draws a clear line from those who built this industry to those who must now carry it forward. Because our responsibility as an association is not only to defend the industry as it stands today, our responsibility is to ensure there is a next generation ready, capable and proud to take the reins. I look forward to joining you this evening as we formally recognise the inaugural recipient and sponsors of this award in honour of that legacy it represents. Agriculture is one of the very few industries that has stood the test of time globally, nationally and here in the North. For thousands of years, agriculture has fed nations, stabilised societies, built economies and sustained communities. Industries rise and fall, booms come and go, but agriculture remains. Why? Well, put simply, agriculture is the foundation of civilisation itself. And beef, our beef, is among the most respected and trusted proteins in the world. This industry has endured for one reason above all else. It has evolved, we innovate, adopt science, improve genetics, land management, animal welfare and productivity. We produce more with less under standards that many of our competitors will never meet. And in doing so, we've built this territory. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak plainly. If you weaken the beef industry, you weaken the Northern Territories economically, socially. Our stations provide jobs where no other jobs exist. We bring training, education and skills to the bush. We sustain small towns that would not survive without a strong pastoral economy. We work alongside Indigenous station owners, Indigenous employees and communities, where relationships are built through action and mutual respect, not politics or rhetoric. And our training partners depend on us. Trading partners depend on us. Agriculture is not standing still. This industry is already doing the work. We are producing more beef with fewer inputs and less waste. Productivity and efficiencies have improved. Emissions intensities has reduced. That has not happened by accident. It has happened through innovation, investment and discipline. Producers have responded because adaptation is not new to agriculture. It is what we do. But progress must be grounded in reality. Tools cannot be removed before alternatives exist. Systems cannot be dismantled before replacements are proven. If we are serious about meeting climate targets while maintaining food production, then science must lead. Research must lead and evidence must lead. Not ideology, not sentiment, and not decisions made for political convenience rather than practical outcomes. Policy that outruns science does not accelerate progress, it undermines it. The impacts are real and measurable. Reduced productivity, increased costs, and weaken food security. We must confront a simple truth. Our markets are price sensitive. Australia does not feed only wealthy customers with discretionary choices. We feed a world with growing demand and limited alternatives. We cannot design policy for boutique outcomes while claiming to support global food security. And we cannot pretend emissions policy exists in isolation. If costs are driven beyond commercial reality, markets will not wait for Australia to recalibrate. They will source supply elsewhere. That is not a threat, it is a fact. If the federal government is serious about productivity and climate outcomes, then it must come on the journey with us, not simply instruct us from a distance. The Department of Agriculture cannot be asked to deliver transformation on a budget that fails to keep pace with inflation. Research, extension and biosecurity capacity are not operational extras. They are the engines of progress. Industry is stepping forward, government must do the same. This truth must be clearly understood. Food security is national security. Reliable, affordable access to protein underpins stability across our region. When supply chains are secure, societies are more resilient. When they fracture, economic and social pressures follow. Food availability in Southeast Asia carries that strategic consequence. Australia is not a bystander in that equation. North Australia and Southeast Asia are bound by geography, trade and relationships sustained across generations. This proximity and relationships carry responsibility as well as opportunity. Better on beef means recognising and strengthening that strategic connection. Live export remains a critical pillar within this framework. Australia operates one of the most advanced, transparent and accountable livestock supply chains in the world, delivering high animal welfare standards, dependable protein supply and regional stability at a level few nations can match. Through this trade, Australia is well positioned to support Indonesia, our nearest and most significant live cattle partner, as it advances President Prabowo's nutritional meals program. This is the program that commits to ensuring pregnant women receive adequate protein. It is about childhood nutrition. It's about reducing stunting and giving the next generation the physical and cognitive foundation they deserve. Reliable access to affordable, high-quality protein is not a luxury. For millions of families, it is a determinant of health, educational attainment, and long-term economic participation. Australia's northern cattle industry is uniquely placed and extremely proud to be contributing to that outcome through consistent and dependable supply. Concurrently, this very production system underwrites Australia's domestic food supply and its global box beef trade. Northern Territory cattle flow through processes across the nation, sustaining regional employment, strengthening supply chains and supporting thousands of Australian jobs. The box beef produced from this system supplies Australian households while also reaching major markets, including much of Asia and the United States. This is not a fragmented model, it is an integrated national framework. Live export and box beef, domestic supply and international trade working in unison to strengthen Australia's economy, reinforce critical trade partnerships and sustain regional communities. Such a system serves producers, strengthens communities and advances Australia's national interests. It warrants protection with clarity, discipline and confidence. The Northern Territory stands at a moment of intensifying land use pressure. Energy generation, critical minerals, large-scale infrastructure. These ambitions are real, they are significant, and in many respects, they are necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear, the Territory must develop. Economic growth, investment and jobs matter, and strong north underpins the nation. But development must not come at the expense of the industry that built and sustains this region. This is not a land awaiting its highest bidder. It is securely held pastoral country, improved, financed and managed by those who live and work on it. When decisions are made without due regard for agriculture, the consequences are structural, and a broken structure cannot support a framework that seeks to rebuild. Compromised water systems cannot be casually restored. Lost productive capacity is not easily replaced. The question is not whether development proceeds, it's whether it proceeds with balance and respect. Food production, environmental protection, energy transition and mineral extraction must coexist. That balance is achievable, but only if agriculture is recognised as the foundational, not expendable. Respect means early engagement, genuine consultation. Recognition that pastorals are not obstacles to progress but long-term partners in the territory's prosperity. If development is to endure, it must strengthen the north, not hollow it out. Land use decisions must safeguard existing investment and ensure the new industries complement rather than compromise those already in place. Because when agriculture weakens, regional communities decline. And when regional communities decline, the territory and the nation are diminished. We must uphold a strong agricultural structure. We need to stride with purpose to deliver clarity and strength. Rules and codes determine whether this industry can function. They shape productivity. They influence capital allocation, and they decide whether producers can plan with confidence or are forced to operate in a state of constant reaction. Before we talk about reform, it is important to understand the environment in which Northern Territory pastoral businesses already operate. Across Commonwealth and Territory jurisdictions, our industry navigates close to 90 separate legislative instruments. For one single operational decision, whether clearing, infrastructure, development, transport, logistics, or diversification, multiple acts, regulations, and reporting regimes can apply stimultaneously. Different regulations, different statutory tests, different timelines. Pastoralists comply with lease conditions, environmental and biosecurity protections, native title processes, sacred site clearances, water controls, biosecurity frameworks, transport and fatigue regimes, workplace safety laws, animal welfare standards, foreign investment rules, and more often all intersecting within one activity. This is not an argument against standards. We support strong environmental stewardship. We respect cultural heritage. We plan beyond electoral cycles and beyond individual careers. But there is a difference between high standards and stacked regulation. When approvals are layered rather than integrated, when thresholds are inconsistent and reporting is duplicated across systems, complexity becomes a constraint. It affects productivity, investment confidence, and regional development. Despite this, territory producers continue to meet and frequently exceed these obligations, simply to operate responsibly, manage their vast landscapes, and sustain regional communities. Industry has kept pace with the future. Governments must do the same. If producers are expected to modernise regulatory systems and modernise with them, regulation must be outcomes-based, not process-bound. It must be proportionate to risk, not designed for optics. It must be integrated, not bound in perpetuity. Australia cannot afford policy conceived in isolation and imposed on working landscapes, because landscapes are real places with real consequences, and producers carry those consequences every single day. On your behalf, we advocate for regulation that is fit for purpose, grounded in science, proportionate to risk and accountable for its real-world impacts. If anyone seeks a clear illustration of why that matters, they need look no further than the debate surrounding bufflegrass. Buffle was deliberately introduced to stabilise soils, prevent erosion and underpin viable pastoral systems across some of the most fragile country in Australia. It underpins productivity, biodiversity and the capacity to carry cattle responsibly. Yet we are now confronted with policy discussions that approach buffle as a liability to be removed, without credible alternatives, without transitional pathways, and without transparent assessment of the economic and environmental consequences. That is not balanced regulation. It is policy untethered from evidence and devoid of consequence. Producers cannot continue to serve as shock absorbers for policy ambition. They cannot absorb the cost, the uncertainty and the operational risk of decisions made without practical accountability. And there is the consequence of getting this wrong. When regulation becomes uncertain, investment pauses. When investment pauses, capacity contracts. And when capacity contracts, regional communities feel it first, which brings me to certainty, confidence and capacity. Private investment in the Northern Territory should be accelerating. The opportunity is real. The appetite is there. What has been inconsistent is the certainty. This association represents significant long-term private investment, patient capital, generational capital, capital prepared to weather cycles and volatility. Producers are ready to reinvest, diversify, employ and expand. The willingness to take risk has never been the constraint. The constraint has been the system. Layered approvals, duplicated processes, fragmented decision-making, indeterminate timeframes, diffused accountability. When approvals are delayed without clarity, momentum dissipates. When momentum dissipates, capital reallocates and regions suffer. Many in this room can speak to this truth. It's observable. Lost time translates into lost productivity and in turn lost employment. The cumulative effect, however, is a quieter economy in weaker regions. The encouraging shift this year has been the renewed enthusiasm, the emphasis on certainty, accelerated by the Country Liberal Party and reinforced by the Chief Minister. That focus is welcome. Thank you, Chief Minister, for your courage. Certainty is not a rhetorical device. Certainty is not a rhetorical device. It is the precondition for investment. It allows business to plan with confidence, commit capital with clarity, and scale operations with discipline. Industry responds quickly to stable settings. Investors respond even faster to predictable frameworks. Clear timelines, consistent rules, and transparent decisions are not administrative details. They are economic enablers. That is the environment required to unlock the full potential of the pastoral sector and with it the broader Northern Territory economy. I will turn now to your association. Because certainty does not deliver itself. That is why capacity matters. Capacity that is built deliberately, resourced responsibly and directed towards outcomes that matter to members, not activity for its own sake. Navigating this environment requires expertise, persistence and presence. It requires people who can interrogate policy, challenge assumptions and hold systems to account professionally, consistently and without distraction. That is why advocacy matters, and that is why scale matters, because collective effort delivers a leverage that no individual business can achieve alone. Membership exists to facilitate that and maintain balance, to ensure every dollar invested by members into this association is converted into influence, access and progress. And that is why membership value must be measured in outcomes, not optics. Not in how often we speak, but in whether barriers are removed. Not in how many meetings we attend, but whether approvals flow. Not in how polished a polished strategy looks, but in whether investment actually proceeds. This is disciplined advocacy. It is value for money delivered through focus, credibility and persistence. This means creating an operating environment where confidence is restored, ambition is rewarded and investment is welcomed. Because when investment flows, the entire territory benefits. And when it does not, the cost is borne by us all. So as we look to the years ahead, your association priorities are clear, disciplined and deliberate. If we want thriving regions, jobs, population growth, economic strength and genuine diversification, then we need sustained private sector investment. A sustained investment does not happen by accident. It requires efficient and predictable approvals, enabling infrastructure, a skilled and stable workforce, and above all, it requires policy certainty. The coming generations demand this of us and we will deliver. This is where this association will remain focused. Not on rhetoric, but on execution. Not on intention, but on outcomes. Our role is to do the hard work required to improve the operation environment so that you, the people who drive these enterprises, can get on with the job of building businesses, creating employment, sustaining the North. That is our task, that is our responsibility, and that is exactly where your association will continue to direct its efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, let me leave you with this. This territory was built by cattlemen and women of courage, grit and resolve. People who understood that progress is earned, not granted. People who work with the land, not against it. People who accept responsibility, not just for today, but for tomorrow. That character lives on. It lives on in this room. It lives on in your businesses, and it lives on in the next generation coming through. Today we honour that legacy, and tomorrow we'll continue the work. We do so with confidence in our industry, confidence in our people, and confidence in this association. When I return to the stage next year for my final address as President, I hope to speak of not of constraint, but of courage. Courage shown by our political leaders, conviction demonstrated in decision making, certainty delivered in policy settings, and measurable progress across the Northern Territory in 12 months that follow this conference. Progress that is visible in investment committed, infrastructure advanced and confidence restored. That is the standard and the expectation. Before I conclude, I want to acknowledge our Chief Executive Officer, Romy Carey, and her dedicated team. Can they come up on stage, please? Emily, Jess, Sani, Tash, Holly and Michelle. And Emily's an apology, is she?
Em's on holiday.
Yeah. Is Michelle up?
She's on her way. That's okay. We can keep going.
That's all right. Okay, Michelle's coming. Behind me, the people on the stage are the team working every day on behalf of the members, navigating policy, engaging stakeholders and advancing the interests of our pastoral sector with professionalism and persistence. Please join me in recognising Romy and her team not only for bringing this event together, but for the work they undertake throughout the year in service of this association and its members. We are better together, we are better united, and we are better on beef. Thank you, everyone.